Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile, and today we're going to take a look at the TRN TA1. I want to thank Ricky with RDT Hi-Fi for sending these over for a review. Ricky, you rock. Check out the links down below for how you can find RDT Hi-Fi on YouTube. Give them a subscription if you haven't already, and tell them that I sent you over there. Alright, so the TRN TA1, $40, has lots of competition. And there are a ton of IEMs available in the $40 price point. How does the TRN TA1 stack up? Alright, so it is a hybrid design, has a 8mm dual core dynamic driver and a 33/518 Knowles balanced armature. It comes in at 16 ohms, 107 decibels of sensitivity, easy to drive, do not need anything powerful to get sound out of the TRN TA1, and it has a frequency response of 10 hertz to 40 kilohertz. You'll find out why I'm laughing about that. It does connect via MMCX connectors, and it has a magnesium alloy housing. All right, so the TRN TA1. It comes in a pretty standard box. You get a little picture of the IEM on the front. You have the TA1 listed and not much else. You open it up and you'll have this little cutout. Your IEMs will be in there. Now, Ricky was unable to send the original cable because apparently the original cable broke while he was using it. So he just said use another cable. Thankfully, I have another TRN cable just laying around. So it actually looks just like the stock cable, so I'm not sure if it's a stock cable, but that's the cable I used. Worked just fine. You do get a little cable strap with some branding on it, which is a nice touch. It says trn-hifi.com, and then you get different tips. Now this is important. The stock tips, you get plenty of them. You get 3 sets of white silicones, 3 sets of black silicones, and some foams. And I'll just pull one out here. The white ones are the typical olive shape, and they're very narrow bore. They're a little bit long, and they insert fairly deep. And then the black tips are a little shorter olive shape, but they have a wider bore. And that's actually kind of a interesting touch considering the price tag. You don't normally get a whole lot of silicone tips with a budget IEM, let alone getting both wide bore and narrow bore. Other than that, you don't get anything else besides the cable. Let's take a look at the IEM itself. And the IEM itself actually is built very nicely. It's very reminiscent of a Tin Hi-Fi T2 or T3. It does have a few differences on it. As you can see, I have the wide bore tip. Alright, so the housing is very nice. It has a little TRN logo on there, but one thing that's very interesting is the bass port. As you can see, it kind of juts out, and I found that actually caused some comfort problems. It really touched right here on this little part of my ear right here and just kind of pushed it forward, and after about 30 minutes I started to get significant discomfort, and it just really hurt. And so you may or may not have a problem with that, but because of the way they fit in my ears, they just caused a little bit of discomfort. Not terrible, but only about 30 minutes before I could start really telling that it was in there. Other than that, it's fine. They're a little on the hefty side, but if you're used to a T3 or a T4 or something like that from Tin Hi-Fi, this will not be too much of a problem. It does connect via MMCX. And the cable, this cable is very reminiscent of the stock cable. It's just a typical TRN cable. It's very nicely built, actually. They fit in, as I said, go around, but as you can see, that little bass port just kind of sticks out, and it just kind of causes problems for me. And I don't know, they're not the most comfortable, but they're not the most uncomfortable either. They do a decent job of isolating out and separating out outside noises. You're going to be in about the 60% range. You're going to still hear things, but they are a little bit muffled. And I mean, they do an adequate job for light noises around the neighborhood while you're walking, maybe at the gym, working in the office, that type of thing. But if you're going to do some traveling on mass transit, you're probably going to want something a little different if you want to block out all those outside noises. All right, so with all that said, I'll give them a passing grade. For 40 bucks, I definitely have felt a lot worse, more uncomfortable, and a lot cheaper feeling. So they get a passing grade, and they're adequate, no problems. All right, how do they sound? Now, as I said, they have a frequency response of 10 hertz to 40 kilohertz. 40, sorry. The bass on them, the bass is very prominent. These are bass kings. If you like sub bass and you like mid bass, you're gonna like the bass on the TRN TA1. It is plentiful, it is boomy, it is forward, it is present, it is there. Now, is it the most detailed? No. Is it the best resolving? No. Is it the most natural sounding? No. But is it in quantity? Oh yeah. The TRN TA1 has got some bass, and it is fun. Now, it does a pretty good job of giving you the details and portraying the picture that the music is presenting. But where it really gets into problems is on busier tracks. So if you have a ton of bass going on, a lot of noise going on, it gets jumbled and a little confused, and it doesn't do the greatest of resolving everything that's going on, and it kind of goes into one note mode. But if it's a pretty typical standard bass rhythm, and with drums and things like that going on, they can keep up, and they do a good job of presenting it. It's just when things get really busy or super heavy that they get themselves in trouble. But for the most part, the 8mm dynamic does a really good job, and I actually enjoy the bass a whole lot on the TRN TA1. Mids. Muffled, lack clarity, and lack air, and have a major problem in the upper mids. So some of the other people that I have heard talking about the TRN TA1 say that they sound natural and that they have a very good tone to them. No, I do not think that they sound realistic or natural in any way. They sound muffled. They sound very thick and just overdone, and their tone is just wrong. Everything sounds digitalized. It does not sound clean. So if you have a track that you know is an acoustical track, classical music, country with some guitars strumming or being picked, violins, cellos, flutes, saxophones, pianos, instruments that you can truly pick out, trumpets or trombones, they all have this digitalized sound signature. They sound like they're being played on a keyboard. It doesn't matter the track. And it does a really terrible job with tone and timbre. Now, it doesn't say that, not saying that they're not enjoyable. They're just not natural. They're not realistic in any way. They do not do that in any way. And it's just a odd sounding mids. And then when you get into the upper mids, they're very thin and they're completely gone. I mean, there's like this big gap in the upper mids, and they just sound hollow and thin in the upper mids. There's just this gap between upper mids and lower treble that just is missing. And it's just no details, no clarity, and everything just sounds very muffled. And no, the mids are just, they're not good. Vocals sound muffled. There's just no energy, sparkle, airiness, clarity, and then you add in that tone and timbre problem, and the mids are just, they're not good on the TA1. I do not like them whatsoever. And then you go into the treble. Now they extend to 40K. Yeah, right. There's absolutely no way that these extend beyond about 9K, 8K. They're extremely rolled off. So I don't know why they have that listed as 40K. It should be 10 hertz to 10 kilohertz. Seriously, these things are so bad in the treble. There's no air. There's no extension. There's absolutely no sparkle, no energy in the treble. It is gone. I mean, gone. This is by far the IEM. If you hate treble, absolutely hate it, or it just drives you insane, here you go. Here's your IEM. If you like all bass, don't care about mids quality, and you don't want any treble, here you go. These are... Someone told me that these are bright and sibilant. I could not get on, even on my most sibilant tracks that I test, I didn't hear it. I even turned up the volume, and there's no sibilance, there's no hotness, there's no sharpness, there's not brightness. These are the most tame and just non-existent treble that I've heard in IEM. With that being said, tips. Now, I said they come with two different tips. So they come with narrow bore and wide bore. Narrow bore tip enhances the bass, and it makes it fun. Okay, I mean, it's a fun bass, boomy, thumpy, shaking your head type of bass. The mids have the same problem. The mids are a problem child throughout, and the treble still doesn't exist. You're just like, where is it? It's not there. You put the wide bore tip on and you get a small, small little bit of increase in treble clarity. It comes out just a little bit and you get a smidge of air, and they're tolerable with the wide bore tip. And that's why I have them on. The other thing that the wide bore tip does is it saves the soundstage. And the soundstage on the TA1, if you use the narrow bore tip, is so in your ear. I mean, it's like in your head. And it's like having a subwoofer behind your head. It's just like, oh, okay, I'm a little too close to the speaker. And so you put the wide bore tip on and it opens that up a little bit, and it gives a minuscule amount of air and clarity, and you're at least not between the ears, you're just outside the ear. It's a very narrow soundstage, and they don't have the greatest of imaging, depth, or layering, but there's a little bit there. But it's when the tracks get busy, everything clumps together. And so if you like soundstage, you will not like these. If you like to be able to hear all the imaging and depth and layering in the stage, you won't like these. They just lack the natural realistic flow that you get, and these don't have it. These are the farthest from natural realistic. How do they compare to other IEMs in the price point? Only consider these if you want bass. If you don't care about quality of mids and treble, go ahead and get these. If all you want is the bass, these are your boy. They're a fun bass. They have good bass. Everything else about it is mediocre at best, and it's not going to wow you. So the Jade Audio EA1, the Jade Audio EA3, the Moondrop SSR, the FIO FH1S, the FIO FD1, K-Bear Lark, K-Bear KS1, the K-Bear KS2, the Moondrop SSP, you name it, I would take them over the TA1. Blonde BL03, I would take them over the TA1 just because they have a little bit of treble, they have a little bit of energy and sparkle, they have an airiness to them. They don't sound stuffy, they don't sound veiled, and with all that said, do I like the TA1? They're weird. They're odd. They're the strangest sounding IEM that I've ever heard. But you know what? Every now and then a song comes along that they sound good on. 90% of the time, I absolutely despise these. But every now and then a song comes along and you're like, wow, these actually sound good. But that song is not in my preferred preferences. Those songs are just random selections that I'll come across in a playlist. They're not my preferred listen. And so the TRN TA1 odd, weird, strange, kind of like it, but I don't recommend it. Let's try TRN, but yeah, what were you thinking? It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Hey, thanks Ricky with RDT Hi-Fi for sending over the TRN TA1 for a review. Check out his channel, give him a subscription, tell him I sent you over there. Also, don't forget to check out the links down below for information regarding the TRN TA1. If you really want to purchase one, there will be a link to Linsol. Also, information regarding the channel, how you can contact the channel, follow the channel, support the channel, all that kind of stuff. Links to playlists, links to all kinds of other information about the channel. So check those links out. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.